be beaming, I be booming down that block. Everywhere you go, you know they know I'm hot.
What's up? What's going on, my good people? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you all are doing well. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you. Pull up a seat. Hope you enjoyed the content. And before we get into this video, I want to ask that you like, comment, share, subscribe, and go ahead and tap that bell while you're at it so you're notified anytime I drop a brand new video, go live, or schedule a premiere. All right, y'all, so I'm back with another mukbang. I'm eating Taco Bell today, and I'm excited. I'm excited to be eating. It's my first meal. It's late in the day. It's almost 5 o'clock, y'all, and it's just so easy not to eat sometimes. So I got to get back on track with things. But I have 3 taco supremes, and I also have a bean and cheese burrito. So that's what I got today. I got some mild sauce. We about to go in with a taco first. Taco first. I always get their taco supremes. I cannot eat their tacos without the sour cream. So first bite for the GP fam. Second bite for me. I'm legit hungry. I'm eating fast as hell. That was good. So what's up, y'all? How the week going? How y'all feeling? Y'all, I'm trying to get my life back together. Y'all know I just got back from my trip, and I'm about to go to Steph and Tasha's house tomorrow. So, you know, I'm definitely off track with my schedule in terms of, like, my sleep is off, my eating is off. But once I get back from Steph and Tasha's, I'm gonna get back on track, because I had a bomb-ass routine going before I went on vacation to go see Laura. I had a great routine, so I'm gonna get back to that, and I'm gonna actually show y'all. I'm gonna show y'all that routine real soon. So I'm gonna do a story time. It's gonna be kind of, it ain't gonna be short, but it's just not gonna be as long as some of the other ones that I've done. You know what I'm saying? But I think y'all will enjoy it. I'm gonna do that in a little bit. So I don't know if I told y'all this. Well, I have told y'all this. So I love Twitter. That's my favorite social media platform, because people be going in. They go in on so much stuff on Twitter, and they do not hold back at all. Like, you will get your feelings hurt on Twitter. So it's always a lot of relationship talk on there. A lot of talk about consideration. With a lot of talk about consideration, how people have ended relationships and, you know, ended long-term relationships and got divorced because they realized their partner was extremely inconsiderate. So consideration is like is really high up on the ladder in terms of, like, people's needs. And, you know, people were just saying, like, how one day their partners did, like, the smallest things. You know what I'm saying? Like, didn't get something that they wanted from the grocery store, or just didn't think about them, weren't thoughtful about certain things, and how that, you know, that kind of, like, was the thing that set them off and made them reflect on their entire relationship. And they realized how inconsiderate their partner was, and how they moved forward with divorce or breaking, you know, ending the relationship. Consideration is extremely important. It really is. Like, as I was reading all the different stories and stuff, I was like, yeah, consideration is pretty high on my list. I would say like top 5 of things I need from my partner. You know? So a lot of talk about consideration. Also a lot of talk about ghosting. And I had saw this breakdown of like the different reasons that people ghost. So before I get into that, like, have you been ghosted before? Have you ghosted someone before? And if you have, why? You know, if you don't mind sharing that. So I've been ghosted before, but I also don't feel like me and the person were talking long enough for me to really care. And I never ran across them again. Like, it just kind of happened. You know what I mean? But it was talking about how people ghost other people because, you know, they just don't want to have the conversation. It's a very uncomfortable conversation. Sometimes it's not safe. Like, for some people, they feel like they might be physically harmed by someone if they, you know, end what they have going on. For some people, it's for mental health reasons. Like, just mentally, it's just too much for them. And, it, you know, it triggers certain things in them to have that, to engage in that kind of like, I don't know, to engage in certain conversations that it triggers them mentally. So they just feel like it's best for them to just remove themselves from the situation. You know, like, it's just too overwhelming. This is a bean and cheese burrito. And when I was reading about the ghosting stories and stuff, I thought about ghosting professionally. Have any of y'all ever ghosted a job? I was thinking about how detrimental that can be. Even though you may have a ton of reasons why, you know, you ghost somebody or whatever, or, you know, a situation or opportunity, I'm sorry. I was thinking about how it's really important to, if you have an opportunity, or if you tell somebody you're going to show up for a gig or a job or whatever, right? I get that it may be too much for you, but it's really important to like pick up the phone and call, or at least send an email, or at least a text message or something. If you can text the person that you'll be working for, you should do something. Because I was thinking about, like, when you ghost professionally, it really can ruin your reputation in ways that you don't even, that are just, you can't even imagine, you know? And depending on what kind of industry you work in, you know, sometimes industries are really, really small. So it gets around really fast when people don't do certain things or whatever their character flaws are. So yeah, when I was looking at ghosting on Twitter, I was like, damn, I thought about ghosting professionally. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've definitely ghosted something professionally. I have when I was a lot younger. I wouldn't do that now, but you know, I was thinking about that because, you know what, when you tell somebody you're going to show up at a job or whatever, or an opportunity, I was thinking about just how many like resources, money, time is allocated to you showing up. Like, you know, so much depends on you showing up. And you, at the end of the day, you want to be a person of your word professionally. Because again, you can like really ruin your reputation. Like, I've seen people like ghost on like creative gigs and opportunities and stuff like that, like on set or whatever. And as soon as people see them, they start talking. And it's like, damn, you know what I mean? And that's just not a good feeling. It's very hard to repair your reputation professionally. It can be. So I know it can be hard. I'm not saying that ghosting when dating is okay, but I mean, it happens. I think if you can use your words and if you're in the right space to do it, you should definitely let somebody know that you're not interested in them anymore, you know? And then professionally, the same thing. I think you should always speak up and say that you're not going to make it, or that you changed your mind, or that it's not going to work for you, or if you could change your schedule. Like, just say something, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that that's always the right thing to do. This bean cheese burrito was good. The people at Taco Bell was really nice too. And y'all, I'm about to get ready to wash my hair because it is just time. I took my hair out of a ponytail and it fell into this cute afro, and I love it. I feel like Ludacris. Immediately, that's what I thought about. And I was like, this is so cute. I was like, I'm definitely wearing my hair like this in the video. I'm gonna finish this bite and then I'm gonna get into the story. All right, y'all, so let's go ahead and get into the story time. If anybody is watching for the first time, this is a fiction story. I do tell a bunch of different fiction stories up here. I will list the playlist if you want to go back and watch any previous ones that I've told if you want to get caught up. And once we get to the end of this story, I'll let you know what inspired it, all right? So this story is about Mackenzie. That's the main character, and she's in her early 30s. And, you know, she's a young professional. And so for the last 7 or 8 months, she has been on a leave of absence. So this is the final weekend, you know, that she's on her leave of absence leading up to work. So, you know, of course, she's anxious and overwhelmed and nervous, you know, because she hasn't been at her job for such an extended period of time. So, you know, grocery shopping, preparing her lunch, getting her clothes and stuff together. And, you know, Monday finally rolls around. And if you know anything about, you know, being off work for an extended period of time, a lot of your stuff just doesn't work the same, right? So your badge may not work when you get into the, you know, get to the door. Your login probably doesn't work. Like your credentials don't work for the computer. Like there's just all these different mishaps and stuff, right? So, you know, when you're gone for a while, it just takes like a day or two to kind of get you back up and running, right? So that first day when she comes back, you know, people are really happy to see her. They're giving her a warm welcome. But there's also a lot of new faces. There's a lot of new faces. Processes have changed. Some of management has changed, but her boss is still around. Like her main boss is still around. And of course there are some familiar faces as well. So like that first day, she's really just kind of hanging out at her desk, you know, just waiting for IT to give her the word, you know, that she can log into her computer and get her set up and stuff. Excuse me, get her set up. So after like the second or third day, she finally gets logged into her computer. And now that she's logged in, now she has to go and catch up on emails. Okay. So she got all these emails, thousands of emails that, you know, she's received over the last 8 months. So she's going through emails, getting caught up on that, you know, creating folders, deleting stuff, like just spending time doing it. So she spends an entire day basically going through email pretty much, right? So on her fourth day, it's now time to like get back up and running in terms of like understanding her job and what to do, because she's been so out of the loop. You know what I mean? Like when you don't do something every day for that long, you're going to forget things, right? So she needs to do training. So there's a new guy in her department named Steve, and you know, she does a couple of side-by-sides with him. And you know, her boss also asked that, you know, Steve take her in a training room and like work with her one-on-one. So she's like, all right, cool. You know, the side-by-sides go great. You know, Steve answers all of her questions. He's not rushing through things, you know, and Steve has only been at the company for like 4 or 5 months, but he's like a stellar employee. You know what I mean? And, you know, he's just very helpful, patient and everything, you know. So they are done with the side-by-sides and they eventually go into a training room. So they're in a training environment. You know, he has like a PowerPoint up on the screen and just like showing a couple, you know, different things that have changed and processes, and showing her just how much has changed. You know, they work in the insurance, they work in their claims adjusters in the insurance industry. So, you know, things have really, really changed over the last like 6 months, and she just hasn't been around for it. So, you know, he's a great trainer, like I said, very patient. And, you know, she's just grateful that there's somebody that can help her get back into the swing of things, right? So they're training for about like a week and a half. And, you know, she feels comfortable enough to kind of get back into the swing of things and take things slow. And her boss is real cool about, you know, take your time. You know, I'm not going to put any pressure on you in terms of productivity or anything like that, or performance. I want to give you time to ramp back up, right? So, you know, she's back at her desk and, you know, getting into the swing of things. And as she's doing this, you know, Steve is popping in, you know, asking her if she needs anything. And she's like, no, I'm good. You know, and again, she's grateful that she has him and other employees that are helpful, right? So, you know, 2-3 weeks go by and Steve is still popping in, you know, her cubicle. And she's like, Steve, like, I'm good. I'm back into the swing of things. Like, I'm ramped up. I'm good. Like, she's telling him, like, you don't have to show up at my cubicle every day. Like, I'm good, right? So, you know, he stopped showing up, but then like another week goes by and, you know, he's trying to talk to her in the break room and trying to catch her on the elevator and stuff like that. And at this point, she could tell that he has interest in her. You know what I'm saying? He has an interest. And she's just like, Steve, like, I'm not interested. You know, I'm single, but I don't want to date. And, you know, I would never date anybody that I work with. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, like, I'm good. You're not even my type, you know, to be honest with you. And he's like, your type? What's your type? She's like, I don't want to get into all of that. Like, let's just keep it, you know, professional. Let's just be cool at work. You know, I think we could be great friends, but I'm good, you know. And if you want somebody at work, like, there's a ton of other, you know, pretty women that work in our office and other women that are way better than me. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, no, like, I just really have my eye on you. And she's like, Steve, I'm good. So, Steve hears her loud and clear, and he takes a step back. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't step to her anymore. He's not approaching her. He's not flirting. He's not trying to talk to her or whatever. And let me tell you something. Mackenzie starts to feel some kind of way. So I don't know if y'all have ever experienced that before, but people like the attention. And Mackenzie realizes that she actually likes the attention from Steve, and she feels some kind of way when he actually listens to her and steps back, right? So she finds herself trying to get his attention, but Steve has moved on, okay? He done worked his way to the other side of the office, showing interest in other women, and he just kind of doing his thing, right? So they work 2 different schedules. So Mackenzie leaves earlier than Steve does, right? So she's getting ready to go home one day, and as she's getting in her car, she sees a woman getting into the passenger side of his car, right? And she sees this woman clear as day. This is her best friend, Katrina. And so this really throws her off, because she's like, what the fuck is Katrina doing here? And she never told me she was dating somebody at my office, and I didn't know she was dating anybody. Like, I'm confused. So she finds herself getting ready to, call her on the phone, but she's just like, whatever. She sees her get in the car with Steve, and they drive off, like it's his lunchtime, right? So she's like, I guess she's having lunch with him. Like, all right, whatever. We'll talk about this later tonight, right? So, that night rolls around, and, Mackenzie's at home doing her thing or whatever, watching TV, cooking dinner, just kind of chilling or whatever. And it's like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and she decides to call Katrina, and Katrina's phone is going straight to voicemail, right? And she's not really concerned at this point, because Katrina is good for putting her phone on do not disturb. Like, that's her shit. So she's like, whatever, I'll just call her in the morning, right? So morning rolls around, she gets up, gets dressed, wants to make sure she gets into the office on time. And, she calls Katrina when she gets up. They talk in the morning. Same thing, phone is going straight to voicemail. So she's like, this is strange, and she decides to, rush out of the house, and she drives by Katrina's house, doesn't see her car. Her house actually looks really like vacant, right? And she's like, okay, she's like, I don't want to be alarmed. I don't want to trip. Like, I'm sure this will make sense, right? So she doesn't even think to call, any of their friends or family. She's like, I want to talk to Steve, right? That's the last time I saw Katrina. That's who I want to talk to. So she gets to work, and like I said, they work different schedules. So she's anxious, she's pacing back and forth. She has her coffee, she's not really able to focus, get anything done. And finally, when Steve comes in, she goes to his cubicle. And so, Steve could tell that Mackenzie was kind of pressing him, once he stopped showing interest. So he's loving it, thinking that she's coming to the cubicle to, see what's up, right? And so she gets to his cubicle, and it's like, Steve, where's my best friend Katrina? And so Steve is like, who? Katrina. Like, I saw her get in the car with you yesterday when you were going to lunch. And he's like, what are you talking about? I didn't have anybody in the car with me. And she's like, yes, you did. Like, she had on a blue dress. Her hair was pinned up. Like, what are you talking about? And so things are now escalating between them. And Steve is trying to calm her down. Like, hey. And she's like, no, fuck that. Like, I can't get in touch with my best friend. I saw her with you. You're the last person I saw her with. I knew I probably should have called her. Like, I thought about calling her when I saw her get in the car with you. And now all of a sudden I can't get in touch with her. Like, what's up? I'll call the police if you don't give me answers. And he's like, call the police for what? She's like, because I cannot find my best friend. He's like, that has nothing to do with me. So they're just going back and forth. People are poking their heads out of their cubicles because they're yelling at this point. And their boss walks up and, asks what's going on. And so the boss asks to see Steve for a minute, right? So they go away for a minute, and Mackenzie goes to her desk, and she's just kind of, in her cubicle, just, has a stern face and nervous, has this feeling in the pit of her stomach about, Katrina and what's going on. And so a couple minutes go by, and Steve comes back, and so Steve is like, hey, come with me. And she's like, come with you where? And he's like, just come with me. I'm going to take you to Katrina. And she's like, oh, so you fucking lied. Yeah, that's what I thought. Now you're going to take me to Katrina. Like, you fucking asshole. Like, is she alive? And he's like, just come with me. And she's like, why would I get in the car with you? Like, what if you do the same thing to me you did to her? And so their boss walks up and is like, it's okay. Go ahead and get in the car with him. Like, he says he's going to take you to Katrina. Let him do that, okay? And so she looks at her boss, and her boss looks back and is like, trust me, everything is okay. Go ahead and get in the car with Steve, right? So they get in the car, and of course there's like this awkward silence, and they're heading in a direction that is just, opposite. It's like way out from their job. They're getting further and further away from their office, right? And the further they get away, and she's like, where are you taking me? Like, where are we going? And he's like, we're almost there. Please, just please. Like, I don't want to go back and forth with you. This will be over in just a minute. Like, let's just listen to music and stop asking questions. Like, I'm going to take you to Katrina, right? And so, you know, she's feeling nervous. Like, should she call somebody? Should she say something? Should she send a text to her family and let them know, like, in case she comes up missing? Like, all of these things are just like overwhelming her at this point, right? So eventually they pull up to a location, and she's kind of like not clear on what it is, right? So they continue to drive, and they go around this area, and they pull up, and they're going in, and they're at a cemetery, right? And so she's just looking around. She doesn't say anything, but she's just really confused. And so she's looking around, and, you know, it seems like Steve doesn't really know where he's going. He seems lost. She's like, where are you going? Like, why are we here? And he's like, please, give me a second. And so he like pulls over for a second. He looks at a piece of paper. He pulls it out of his pocket, looks at the paper. It's almost like a map that's kind of like drawn out, right? He's looking at this map, and then, you know, he follows the map. He turns the car around, and eventually the car stops, right? So they climb out of the car, and she's like, you want me to get out of the car? He's like, please get out of the car. So they get out of the car, and they walk. They're walking, and they don't walk very far, you know, from where they're parked. And eventually they walk up to a graveside. And she looks down at the graveside, you know, the headstone, and it says Katrina Jeffries, and it's her best friend, right? So she's freaking out. She's crying. She almost passes out. You know, Steve is there to comfort her, and she starts beating him on his chest, because she's like, what the fuck is going on? And he's like, I'm sorry. Like, I hate to tell you, but, you know, Katrina died 8 months ago. And, you know, again, she almost collapses, and it's just so much. And, you know, she is just can barely keep her shit together. She eventually blacks out, and when she comes to, you know, she's back at work, and she's just like, I don't understand what's going on. And, you know, her boss is there, and her boss is just, you know, telling her, like, you know, I knew that you coming back to work was going to be really hard, you know, and I'm so proud of you for being brave enough to come back to work. I know this is a lot. And, you know, Katrina died, you know, 8 months ago, and, you know, there are just moments when you feel like you see her, but she's not really here. Like, she's gone. And she's like, what do you mean she's gone? Like, she's gone. And I hate to have to tell you that. And I'm okay with telling you as often as I need to tell you, you know, but she's gone. And she just, you know, she just cries and collapses, and she's weeping, and she's heartbroken. You know, that was her best friend since she was a child. It was like her sister. They both were the only child, you know, and it's like she's just hearing this news for the first time. And that's essentially the story. So Mackenzie basically suffers from acute grief. She has a form of grief that causes her to hallucinate, you know, and see Katrina, you know. And that's why she was out of work for so long, because like her life was really just spiraling, you know, spiraling in different ways with the hallucinating. She had other things going on as well, but this loss was just, it was such a huge loss for her that it literally was making her lose every part of herself. So, and lucky enough, her boss and the job, you know, were very understanding about everything. You know, of course, you know, she's not obligated to go into details, but her family, you know, reached out to her boss, because she's been working at this company for a while, and her boss is a really understanding, empathetic person. So, you know, her boss knew, you know, what she was suffering from, that she had acute grief, that she was hallucinating, and, you know, he was prepared to, you know, comfort her and guide whatever situations that come up. So when he pulled Steve into the office, he told Steve what happened. Like, her best friend Katrina, you know, died in an accident, you know, 8 months ago. That's why she's been out. And she thinks that she saw her. So take her to her, you know, take her to her graveside, and, you know, we'll just kind of play it by ear, because, you know, they're not sure how she's going to respond or whatever, but, you know, that's what they decided to do. So that's the story, y'all. That is the story. I wanted to talk about grief, because grief is not a linear thing. We all experience grief very differently. And, you know, I wanted to tell this story because there was like this thread about grief on Twitter, and people were just sharing their experiences. And, you know, we've all experienced grief, you know, whether we have dealt with it, faced it, talked about it, you know, went and saw professional help or whatever. We've all dealt with grief to some degree, you know, and grief isn't limited to someone dying. You know, grief is losing your job, losing your best friend. If you guys are no longer friends, they're still alive, but you guys aren't friends. Moving to a brand new city, having a miscarriage, like just a ton of things are grief. And, you know, it's tough, and it's something that can be with us forever, you know, but we can get like coping mechanisms to help us with the losses that we've experienced. And that's why I wanted to tell this story, you know, because I don't know anybody personally that's experienced acute grief. But again, on the thread that I was reading on Twitter, a few people were talking about their struggles with the hallucinations and how severe it was. You know, one person was even saying how she lost her job completely because of the hallucinations, you know. And also too, just to be, you know, empathetic and patient with people, you know, when they are grieving. You know, I've heard people tell other people, you should be over it by now. You don't get to tell anybody, you know, what their pace or what their experience is. Like, we don't get to tell anybody that. People have the right to take the time with their grief and handle it as they see fit. You know what I'm saying? And even if it takes the rest of their life, we don't get to tell anybody. And also too, you can't tell anybody the magnitude of like their loss. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen people be like, well, it was just your best friend, I don't know why you tripping. But it's like, I mean, if they were like sisters, or even if they weren't, just the fact that it was their best friend and somebody who was there for them, you know, through all these different parts of their life, and now they're gone, you know, be it that the person's passed away or they're no longer friends, you know, that could be really hard to deal with. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to talk about grief because, again, it's not linear. It's not something that is just done one way. There's different forms of grief. And if anybody out there is struggling with grief, I really do encourage you to look into resources, you know, to help you get through that. You know what I'm saying? I really, really encourage that. So therapy, grief counseling, journaling, a life coach might be able to help you through certain things, reconnecting with friends, going for a hike, meditation. It might be several things that can help you with the grief that you're experiencing. So that's why I told this story, y'all. And I feel really bad for Mackenzie. I could just imagine, like, you know, her experiencing that. And she might have that experience over and over and over again. It's possible. So, and I know it's possible because of the stories that I read. You know, people were just saying, like, they've just experienced where they're hearing it for the first time, like this person is gone, but hearing it over and over and over again because it's almost like it never happened, you know? So anyways, that's it, y'all. So I hope you enjoyed the story. Y'all meet me in the comments. Tell me about, you know, we talked about consideration. I talked about ghosting in a relationship, ghosting professionally, talked about grief, talked about a lot in this video. So feel free to chime in on any of it. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, and I'll meet you in the comments, y'all. Make the best of the day. Be good to yourself. Peace.
I be beaming, I be booming down that block. Everywhere you go, you know they know I'm hot.